Hey everyone, I hope you have had a great week this week. I hope you've been able to spend some time outside and enjoy this nice, warm summer weather. I know I have, and it's been great to be outside. Today's lesson was one of my favorite pieces of text in the Bible because it talks about a lot of the people throughout the Bible. The writer here in Hebrews is trying to show us that people have come before us and have showed great faith, and we get to learn lessons from their stories. I know in my life, when I'm faced with hard times, I really have two options. The first one is to feel sorry for myself, to feel like everything can't get any worse, or it may only get worse and things can't get any better, that I've got nothing but bad luck and things are never ever going to go my way ever again. And that almost never works, to feel sorry for ourselves. But the second option I have is to look back on my past through other hard times that I've had and see how God worked through those hard times, or to read stories of other people who have gone through hard times and how God has worked through them, and how through their faith in God, how their story was different than maybe those around them. And that's why I like this passage of scripture, because that's exactly what's going on here. He's reminding us of all the people who have come before us. He's reminding us of Abel and his faith in God. He was doing something that he wasn't even asked to do, but he was doing it. He was doing it faithfully, and God noticed. He talks about Enoch and how his faith was so strong that he never died, that God just called him up to be with him. How cool is that, right? Enoch had great faith. He talks about Noah and the flood and all those things that came with Noah's faith, and about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and how the promise of a great nation being born from Abraham started there, and how Abraham passed it on to his son Isaac, and Isaac on to his sons Jacob and Esau. And we see Abraham's great faith throughout his life. We also see about how Joseph brought the people of Israel to Egypt to have safety during a famine, and how his faith saved a whole nation of people. But then we also see later on how those people became slaves, and how Moses led those people out of slavery back to the promised land that God had called them to. And Moses did a bunch of amazing things because of his great faith. And then we see a story about a woman named Rahab and how she helped the Israelites defeat the city of Jericho and begin to take over the promised land that God had promised them. And when we read their stories, we're going to find out that they've gone through a whole lot worse than we have, and yet their faith in God never stopped. And two, we're going to see how their faith in God led them to make the right choices, led them to do what God asked them to do, even when it seemed impossible. And three, we're going to see the results of that and how it changed the lives, not only their lives, but the lives of many around them. So this week I want to lay out a challenge, and it's a big challenge, but I know you guys are up to it, all right? Here in a second, I'm going to give you the passages of scripture for each of these biblical characters, and I want you to do your very best to read at least maybe 3 of them, but I'd really like to see you guys read as many of them as you can, if not all of them. But I also want you to do something else. I want you to journal what you find. What challenges did they face? How did their faith guide them? How did they rely on God, and how did God lead them through? What were some of the impossible tasks that they faced, and how God delivered them through that? So let's start right here with Abel. And we can find the story of Abel in Genesis chapter 4, verses 1 through 16. Enoch is in Genesis chapter 5, verses 22 through 24. Noah is Genesis chapter 6, verse 9 through chapter 9, verse 17. Abraham is Genesis chapter 11, verse 27 through Genesis 25, verse 11. Isaac is Genesis chapter 25, verse 19 through 28, 9. Jacob and Esau is Genesis chapter 28, verse 10 through chapter 33. Joseph, he's going to be a big one, but he's an important one, is Genesis chapter 37, chapter 39 through chapter 47, and chapter 50, for verse 15 through 26. Moses, he's going to be another big one, but again, he's another very important character when we get to see their faith. Is Exodus chapter 2 through chapter 14, and then chapter 15, verses 22 through 16, and then chapters 19 and 20. We get to see the story of Rahab, who is in Joshua chapter 2, and then chapters 5, verse 13, through chapter 6, verse 25. Take some time this week, read about these men and women, write down the things that they faced, how their faith carried them through, and how God delivered them. And then when those times come that you begin to feel like life is too hard or too overwhelming, go back and read these stories. See what you journaled, and see if you can apply those things to your life to help you through the hard times that you face. This is going to be a very worthwhile practice, and I want you to do that if you can. You all have a great week, and I can't wait to see you all soon.